Welcome back, and in today's lesson I'd like us to explore an idea that comes from the world of dub and techno. So here's the idea. I have a simple club beat here as an example, and instead of filling up all the gaps and adding lots and lots of layers, I'm going to use effects to add complexity to this beat. I'm going to be adding things at different intervals, and these things are going to be changes to parameters. First, we'll be looking at inserts, effects, and changes we can do to the actual insert sound, and then we'll be looking at sends. Here's the example beat I've just thrown together. You can see I've soloed the hat, the snare, and the kick. There's some other stuff going on we'll hear later on. So very, very simple, classic club beat. What I'm going to do is go for something quite obvious first. Here's the snare. I'm going to go into my effects and I'm going to grab my reverb. So now this sounds like that. Here's the automation for the on-off button. And all I'm going to do is every second bar of a loop, I'm going to turn this on. So on the last beat of the second bar, we're going to get a big airy snare drum. Then copy this automation or duplicate it across my entire small arrangement here. So every other bar will hear this. So that's the basic idea. Let's maybe try something a bit more fancy. I'm going to go back into my effects and I'm going to find my options for delay. So I'm going to pick a number. I'm going to go for 7. I'm going to count 7 eighth notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And on that, I'm going to turn this device on. Cool. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on the 7th one, I'm going to duplicate this. And as you can see, it's now out of phase or kind of alignment with the beat. It's falling at quite odd places because 7 obviously doesn't fit into ideas of 8 or 4 very evenly. I'm going to go to my hi-hat. And in this case, let's do something also delay-like, but maybe we'll take this grain delay, and bubbles sounds kind of fun. I'm going to grab the bubbles preset of a grain delay. Let's hear what that sounds like. Cool, so it adds these funky little tails to it. Again, I'm going to turn that off. And this time, let's choose 9. And we'll do that in 16th notes. So I'll make another automation lane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the same thing, I'm duplicating it. We can clearly see it's happening in a different place every bar. And I can just hold down Command and D. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to play this beat so we can get an idea of what we've done. And actually, I think these bubbles should maybe last a little bit longer. Cool. So you notice we don't hear the effect every time because we have to luckily align this up with when the drum hits. So in this case, we don't hear this effect on the hi-hat. because the hi-hat happens here and then the effect turns on. That doesn't really matter because when it does happen, we'll experience complexity, something that feels a little random and detailed but actually makes sense. Cool, let's do one final thing before we move on. I want to maybe add some overdrive to the kick drum every now and again. And in this case, I'm going to just drag it and drop it onto the kick. And let's think, where would we put this? So probably not in the first one. Let's go 15. Okay, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And we see there's no kick there, but there will be eventually. Cool. So every now and again, that kick kind of goes crunch. I'll move this filter a bit. Now, something we might do is play with the actual sampler. Maybe I'm going to play with the fade in of this hi-hat, so we get a slightly looser sound. And instead of just doing it with on and off automation like this, I'm going to use little ramps. So in this case, every 13th bar, we're going to have ramped up by a little bit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, 13. Cool. So we want to be up to here by then. I said 13th bar. I meant 13th, 16th note. So if I just spam that, we're going to have a little bit of kind of movement in our hi-hat part. So you can imagine what else we could do with that. Let's work a little bit with sends or buses or auxiliary tracks or whatever your DAW calls them. So I'm going to add one here. And in this case, I'm going to add a new kind of reverb. I'll just grab a preset today, but it could be whatever you like. Outer space sounds definitely the kind of thing. Let's back that off a bit. And let's do something kind of funky and complex with it. I'm going to EQ like a crazy person and maybe add a bit of chorus afterwards. So now in live, this is how I send sound to this bus. I'll just solo the bus. I'm going to drag this and move it up. So this is the automation I'm going to work with. Let's add that here. And in this case, let's go to my third bar and use this third 16th note of the third bar. And actually, let's make that a little bit smaller. So in these cases, we're sending the entire drum mix to these sends, which sounds like this. And let's do that again. I'm going to make a new return track or bus or auxiliary track. La, 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 la. And find my audio effects again. And in this case, let's do something wacky. Let's get the pitch shifter. And let's turn that up 12 steps. And let's then put a phaser on that. And maybe we also want a bit of delay before that. So there's lots of sound to phase. I'll take the filter delay. Whatever, go mid, sounds funny. Let's solo that and hear what that sounds like. I'll back off on the feedback a bit. That's quite intense. And this one, I'm going to, let's say the very last 8th note of this bar. And maybe I'll actually do this kind of shape. the region I'll copy will miss out the first bit, so we have another odd number. Finally, I might do something really dramatic and put like very, very compressed signal into this mix. And maybe from there, I will use an echo. And maybe I'll also EQ that. Oh no, we could use a filter. Put that before the echo and make it fly around the place very fast. Cool. So in this case, maybe that's quite intense, so I'm not going to do that all the time. I'm just going to pick a random place. I'll turn it into like a sawtooth ramp. And from there, I'm going to copy, again, an uneven number. I didn't select the beginning of it. And let's zoom out and look at our pattern. I'm going to close the browser here so we can really view what we've done. As you can see, this is a complex idea. Every individual part is following a very simple rule, but the rules don't necessarily talk to each other, and then we get things happening out of phase. Sometimes this happens at the same time as other things, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we'll hear these effects, sometimes we won't. There's an element of chance involved. So to finish off, I'm going to unsolo these so we have the whole percussion arrangement, so we really understand the effects that this kind of technique can do. And let's just listen to this, and at the end of this we'll sign off, and I'll encourage you to try this out for yourself. It doesn't have to be on drums, it could be on any line in your production, but I think this is a great way of bringing kind of a stable and predictable beat to life without really composing it.